What's up, family, friends, people of the world? This is Kevin Orris. I'm joined here by my brother, Kyle Anker. And we're going to pick up where we left off on our first talk about sovereignty and what does it mean for men, women living in this crazy end of the world, postmodern era that we find ourselves in. Um, we touched on some really interesting topics last time. Basically, in the apocalypse, the great revealing in Greek. Does the end of the world necessitate like people, just like the masses, reclaiming their sovereignty? And we kind of define sovereignty, what it means for us, taking self-responsibility, being aware and activated by village dynamics, men and women in polarity, the family, versus external authorities, right? Who are just handing down propaganda, conditioning, mind control, and how that actually shifts the entire world. Specifically shifting for men. We talked a lot about the wild masculine, obviously the archetypes of king, warrior, magician, and lover, but also, why wild primal men who are connected to spirit, connected to nature, are very hard to control and condition. And this has kind of been the story of history, is empires or people who'd like to have things their way using a domineering or authoritarian control style. They have to go after the men, the many warrior cultures or mythic wisdom traditions, because without those men subjugated, you can't actually roll out your systems of control.
Yeah, yeah. Focusing more on the men here. And, you mentioned connection to spirit, and I'm thinking a lot about these days, the connection to soul. And the conversation about soul has been so deeply intertwined, I'm noticing, with like the shadow work, right? And that's been a popular term being bandied about quite a bit in communities these days. And I think for good reason, because when you start to excavate and go to the bottom of this lake of the subconscious, which has been made really apparent in the Iron John mythology, that's where the wild man is, at the bottom of this lake in the story, but it's the bottom of our lake. This is where we connect to what we call soul. And I love the way Bill Plotkin writes about it, because he's the one for me who had a direct connection between soul and shadow work, like soul crafting. And it's when we get in touch with this wild essence, which is soul. You could also call it spirit, the self. I think these are interchangeable. So for some Holy Spirit, then you start to really excavate your essence and figure out from there like what it is you're here to do. Because unless we're connected to like our unique signature of consciousness, which again I believe is the soul, then we have something to move through life from. And it's from there that we begin to get clear and create the containers within ourselves to begin to explore purpose, mission, find our service. And like this is what sovereignty necessitates. So I think for me, in these past conversations, it's like, oh, let's get back to reconnecting. We talked about this first. The men have to reconnect to themselves first. They got to connect to their soul, this wild spirit.
Yeah. This is the hierarchy of being, or you could call it ontology in philosophy. It's basically, is there a hierarchy of being, right? Do you believe in spirit, soul, God, creator, whatever, Shiva, Sati, pick your version of it. If that exists, then that sits on top of the hierarchy of being. Now, modern people, and this is kind of the tragedy of the West, the West used to be extremely pagan. Everything
Right.
was spirit and animism and deities and nature. And then, gradually through Greece and Rome and then the Christian, invasion of many of these cultures, that got taken away. And then we got to science and the age of reason. And now we've lived in a world that's been sucked dry of spirit. Everything's based on science, and which is its own religion and cult, data, and utilitarian value, right? So a lot of the modern world, especially men, if you're not connected up to God, creator, soul, your own experience of spirit, which is very personal, it's extremely hard to be self-sourced and guided or sovereign. Back to sovereignty. If you don't believe in your own, immortal spirit or being, like your deep heart desire and knowing, if you're disconnected from that for whatever reason, you'll just take any purpose or plan that's put in front of you. And that's a lot of modern people right there. That's why it looks like freedom. Like I can hook up with whoever I want. I can have any job I want. I can do whatever I want, have all these pleasures. But they're actually in this like golden cage. It's almost like slavery because they don't have a self sourcing. And so they can't be sovereign by definition because there's nothing guiding them. And that's kind of why so many people, I think, feel lost and confused nowadays.
Yeah. And I like how you brought in this idea of like connection to God, because if you're going to reach that high, which is the utmost high, you're going to be anchored into the bottom of your well of soul that needs to be there. And so I can't help now but think about the whole New Age movement, which came part and parcel with the ungained, unearned belief that we're gods and goddesses. Well, conceptually, yeah, that makes sense. But if you aren't tethered to the truth of that through your own connection to your soul, you're simply just like appropriating and commoditizing other belief systems. And that, as I know you and I have seen, and many people, that we ally with, just goes into this like roundabout washing machine cul-de-sac of sampling many other traditions and paths around the world without actually cultivating your own unique outlook on spiritual practice, which is designed to help you understand who you are. It's like they were jumping the gun. They didn't actually do that deep soul work, the crafting of identity.
Yeah. Identity is at the core, right? The most powerful question a man can ask or a woman is, who am I? And on a deep level, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm John and I work in insurance. It's like, who are you really beyond all the labels and ideas and models that the world shows you? It's like, who are you when you're alone with in nature, with creation? The problem with the healing, I mean, I do comedy as well, and this is an easy punching bag for stand-up comedy, is like the healing industry, right? You sent me that post about the healing industry, the new age community, the conscious culture. Its problem is, number one, the West doesn't have connection to its rooted spiritual tradition, which is rooted in paganism, polytheism, animism. There were monotheistic pagan cultures, but most of it was like nature worship in a sense, worship of the sacredness of nature and being and life. Christianity obviously is the dominant Western model of spirituality, but a lot of people left that. It doesn't work for them in modern day. So with a vacuum there, back to sovereignty, don't have a place of being, don't have a hierarchy to fall into. New age culture comes in, right? Try this psychedelic, become polyamorous, channel aliens. Oh, you're actually a god and a goddess. It fills the void and it feels really good at first. I'm guilty myself. I've been through it. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of value in New Age culture because it is syncretic in the sense that it's combining Western and Eastern religion and like animistic religion with all this other stuff. But it also is out of control. It's bought
100%.
and sold. It's commoditized and like very like capitalized, which, fair enough. People value healing. They value wellness and health. So of course they're going to spend money on it. But that's become predatory for some people who are out of integrity, as we know. Many out there being exposed these days. It doesn't ground you in your own being and sovereignty. So we've all seen people looping in healing and trauma. If I just heal this one childhood trauma, if I do one more ceremony, if I hire one more coach and therapist, then I'll be free to be who I am and access my soul identity and do my mission, blah, blah, blah. And this is a trap for a lot of people. Unfortunately, they get stuck.
Yeah. I'd like that you present this idea of our roots, most Western people's roots. Know thyself is at the core of any spiritual practice or tradition. And the vast majority of people in the West, who are the ones who are running in throngs towards these healing practices, looking for that pill, looking for that get better solution, because they're programmed by the Western mindset of pharmaceuticals to think that there is an answer for that. These people, like you said, largely hail from pagan traditions. The ones that came to good old New England, where I hail from, one of the most haunted and pained places in the world. That's the wellspring, the culture that's created this mass hysteria of psychopathology. They came from the Irish, the Scottish, and the the British, who largely intermingled with the Scandinavians and the Norse. And those practices, yeah, they got demonized as demonic because they were connecting directly with spirit and source through nature. This is what animism is. It's understanding and honoring the life in all things. And so this is at the heart of all my work now. It's like, holy shit, it's so clear. If these people really want to reclaim their power and become sovereign, they need to know who they are. And if they come from these traditions, like most people in the West are from, like myself, bringing their attention back to these ways is the way forward.
We have to, like, this is what McKenna talked about a lot, Terence McKenna, the archaic revival. This happened in the Renaissance. People in like 15th century Europe, Italy, France, England, they went back to the classic ancient cultures of like Greece, Rome, Hellenic culture, Mycenae, to like reinvigorate their society. We're going to have to go back to Paleolithic and animistic culture and shamanism, which is the first religion basically worldwide, to understand how to navigate the modern environment, which is technologically mediated, it's hyper materialistic, and it's hyper reductionist. So it's about cutting things apart, piecing them, understanding them, programming them, calculating them. Holism, which is the idea that, or Gestalt, the idea of Gestalt, is that you can't actually take nature apart. It's a whole system. It's symbiotic. The human body is like this too. This is what the problem with Western medicine is. Western medicine's great. If you break your arm, get in a car accident, you want a trauma-informed, well, maybe not trauma-informed, but a trauma surgeon to reset your bone or sew you up. That's great for Western medicine. That's saved a lot of lives. All the other stuff is completely fucked. So it's like, oh, you have cancer? Well, we're going to kill you with this radiation poisoning. We'll kill the cancer, but it's going to kill you too. Wait, what? Pharmaceuticals. Here's this pill. You won't feel anxious anymore, but you actually won't feel happy anymore either. And oh yeah, side effect is suicide. That's just part of the, doing business. That's the price of doing business. And oh yeah, by the way, we have no liability as the company who made this pill that we sold to you. This hasn't worked. I mean, the root of a lot of this is like you brought up psychopathology. It's a mental health crisis. People, and John Vervaeke, Jordan Peterson, Daniel Schmachtenberger, some of these characters, you and I are familiar with, and many of our listeners will be. They talk about the meaning crisis. So it's not actually that like, okay, there's like the male loneliness epidemic. Men are having less sex, starting less families, not getting married, feeling lonely. They have less friends than ever. Like there's all these stats on that. It's really sad to see. It's not that like people are just like lonely and depressed because the modern world is tough. Because take a Xanax, take an SSRI, you'll feel better. This is what Orwell and Huxley wrote about in the 40s and 50s, that drugging and medicating a population is a great way to keep them subjugated. It's actually a meaning crisis. Because when you don't have connection back to like self-knowledge, knowledge of self, and knowing your place in the village, in ancient times it's pretty simple. It's about survival. I'm a hunter, I'm a warrior, I'm a medicine woman, I'm a mother. It was pretty clear cut because it was playing out in this ancestral environment. Is it raining there? It's super loud.
Yeah, I'm trying to adjust my gain. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. It's just like a downpour out there.
You're reading my mind right now about this meaning bit, because as soon as you mention meaning, I'm like, let's ask that question. Anyone other than a son or a father or an employee, like, are you a member of any community organizations? Like, are you someone who's noted for your craft? Are you just working for somebody? Like Kevin was saying, back when we were in villages, in these homogenous dynamics, full, rife, just plenty with meaning. You're the hunter, you're the blacksmith, you're the medicine man or woman. You had a role that helped you understand who you were. It was connected to your family bloodline, and it gave you meaning because the people you were serving were your family and your community. It was very clear. And, you want to correlate this, but it's highly correlated. They had deep connection and practice in prayer. They were praying And this is different than in manifesting. This kind of goes back to the New Age thing. Again, they just like hop, skip, and jump straight to manifestation. It doesn't work that way. Your prayers, your wishes for yourself and your community have to come through connection to a higher power, which needs to be rooted in your soul and understanding, in your meaning and your identity. And then, when you pray that way, then things manifest. Otherwise, it's baseless, it's soulless, and it's selfish.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, there's a lot of disconnection and like loss of meaning, because at first, like, there's stages of it, right? Like on one level it's like, okay, I don't understand the world out there, and so it's like, okay, it's chaos. History's always been chaotic. The story of history is just chaos, order, chaos, order. It's a yin yang. That's not going to stop, probably. It's going to continue. So that's level one, and most people, I think, look at that, oh, Donald Trump, and Canada just had an election, and like politics and the media, it's like, oh, this is chaos, like what's going on? But then it goes deeper, because people are more isolated. They're not in the village like you're talking about. They don't have mirrors or feedback from people that are really close in their life that understand them deeply. They're at home alone, scrolling the internet, on dating apps, ordering Uber Eats,
pornography.
Yeah, porn, drinking alcohol, smoking weed, go to work, eat, sleep, repeat, So then the meaning crisis becomes internal, because it's like, what am I doing? Am I making a difference in the world? Am I able to have deep connections with the opposite sex and be in love? And do I have connections with the same sex? Do I have strong brothers around me as a man? Do I have women that love me as a woman, that understand me? So then the meaning crisis becomes internalized, which is very dangerous. I'm just bringing up John Vervaeke as someone who talks a lot about the meaning crisis. It's really powerful. And he lists out, I want to share some of these this ecology of things that people go through, right? Like the first one is like, there's a parasitic aspect to it. So like the parasitic aspect is like, I have to keep working this job to make money to pay rent, to keep living. But the only reason I understand why I'm living and doing this is to work the job. So that
Sounds
immediately
like
that sets up this very terrible situation where, meaning crisis, right? And that's level one. Then we go to like the confusion. So it's like, I don't understand my being or my place, and I'm confused, right? So I can't apply it in all my domains of life. And this is what alienation is, another one, ties into. Then there's this something about absurdity. So you can go into an even darker place, which absurdity, there's a lot of things absurd about life. One way to view absurdity is it's humorous, which is what my kind of pattern is. I love to find the humor and the fun in absurdity, because absurdity is funny. But it's not funny if you're alienated and you go into anxiety. So anxiety is like, you want to do something about the confusion and meaning loss, but you don't feel able. So we've all had this experience with our mind is just, and like we're staying up, can't sleep, or we're at work and we're just like, we're wired in a fight or flight state, combined with all this other stuff I'm sharing. And that cocktail together is very dangerous. And it doesn't just affect like, oh, like single men are anxious and alienated, or women, who don't find, whatever satisfaction with their job or being a mother. There's all that stuff for like smaller groups, men, women, African Americans, Mexican Americans. You can pick the little groups it's affecting. It actually affects all of society. All of society becomes less creative, less spiritually grounded and minded, less communitarian, and less productive. It actually is a civilizational level threat, which is why it's called like a crisis. And there's more thinkers. Vervaeke is just one that's really gone deeply into it, but it's pretty intense when you look at the full picture.
When we lack meaning to that degree, and we find ourselves living in this automatonic state like Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray, just rinsing and repeating for need to provide in the most mechanical and material way, there's no freedom in that. It literally turns you into a robot, a slave, indentured servant, whatever term you want to use. Like, ask yourself, do you identify as that man that we just described, the man who has to use substance like alcohol and pornography as a substitute for feeling some sense of freedom. This is largely at the core for the pornography epidemic, because in that moment where a man climaxes, regardless of like what it's in relationship to, you feel a small sense of freedom. In fact, the term for this in French is specifically that, the small death. And that's even more accurate because you are giving away your creative, vital life force. Speak to any man out there that you have a sense that he is on track, on purpose, doing something bigger and wilder than you can imagine. I guarantee you that man is not jerking off on Pornhub because he doesn't feel the draw to that. He's finding a sense of purpose when he wakes up because he's guided by a different power. And I get it. It's hard. It's scary to consider moving away from this because you're entangled. You get the hooks in you in so many places. And then you got a mortgage to pay, family to take care of, and parents who are dying, and then you're not even near. You got to make time to go see them with what money and time. And so if you identify with anything that we've mentioned, like it's worthwhile sitting back and asking yourself the question, like, who am I? And what gives me meaning? Do I actually feel free in this world? And if not, what am I doing to help create that in some synthetic way? Pharmaceuticals sure as hell do it. In fact, they numb your sense of willpower and desire to even create this. They allow the powers that be and these hooks in you to stay deep and not feel like there's anything wrong because they're addressing symptoms. They're addressing symptoms. They're not curing anything. The cure, the panacea, if there is one, is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty daunting question. And like, to be clear, like, I don't feel like I have it figured out. Like, I'm still in my own meaning crisis, finding meaning and purpose. And it's an ongoing thing. Like, anyone who tells you they've figured it out doesn't really know, you know. The eternal Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao, right? It's like, it's a catch-22. And I've learned through a lot of pain and hardship and growth to aim at meaning through various things. You know, this is one of them, having these kinds of conversations, doing the work that I know you and I do with men and people we work with and serve to help awaken this energy and speak into it. Because, you know, again, back to Terence McKenna, one of the GOATs, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the only thing that stops a culture from evolving is its language. So this is the scariest thing in 1984. George Orwell talked about the thought police, or like doublethink their words. They couldn't even say and therefore think about what the world could be. It was only what the state told them. And this is really scary. I mean, you can look this up. I'm not making this up. It's not a conspiracy theory. Project Mockingbird. All the news outlets, all the media companies are owned by 6 individuals. They all repeat the same phrases. You'll know this when you get into a conversation with someone about politics. They're not having original thought a lot of the time. They're repeating a phrase that's been implanted into them through this mockingbird thing. That's what's scary about this whole thing, is that for most people, it's like they're fish in the ocean that can't even see the water because they're living inside the language construct. Just imagine like people, you know, like the pioneers in America, like you said, the colonists that came to New England, or the colonists and pioneers that went west and founded Texas and California. They had immense meaning because they were literally exploring and discovering new lands and creating a future for their family, their nation, their people, their tribe, whatever. That was a time of discovery and great meaning because it was literally life or death. And they were escaping, you know, many of them, servitude and oppression and blah, blah, blah. And this is a story that plays out throughout history. Nowadays, because there's such an abundance of pleasure, you can just have as much food, sex, drugs, pills, media, entertainment that you want, like that at any time. This goes into the hero's journey. Meaning is harder to access. Because if you got a good job, you got a family, you're making money, you know, you're doing XYZ, it's pretty easy to just kind of go into autopilot, like you said, and become a robot. So you become the automation, which is the craziest thing, that we're working with AI now. But people are the AI. They're just doing repetitive tasks to keep on living. And what are they doing living? Doing repetitive tasks. It's a very vicious cycle that we find ourselves in the modern world. Now, there are people, I'd count us among them, who are trying to look past the way things are to what could be. How can we reawaken the village? How can we reconstruct language and society to create a world that we all want to live in, that doesn't just work for like 5% of humanity, but actually works for everyone? That's not communism or socialism, right? And is not living in nature in a loincloth farming mangoes and doing nothing else. It's a very hard question, but also one that is filled with meaning.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I haven't figured it out either. This is the early stages. And when it's about searching for meaning and reviving what it is, you have to be really curious. You have to be really bold and really brave. And another thing about the pioneers and the settlers that came here, yeah, they were escaping a lot of oppression and tyranny, but they were also doing it with the fire of God in their hearts, whatever it meant to them. And that was a really crucial component. I mean, it also served for a lot of the oppression that they doled out amongst their own people, the witch trials. But that is a necessary variable in order for great change. I'm sure many of you listening out there feel the oppression and feel the pain, but unless you get that spark in you to follow something that you believe in, something that you have faith in, but you don't fully understand, it is hard. It's very hard to move forward. You know, I consider myself sovereign in many ways because I get to choose when I work, how I spend my day, who I want to spend time with, you know, when to take vacations. And also that's really hard sometimes because I'm still working through the programming of just keep going, keep doing, producing. This fact that you got to put in to receive. You know, this is why my path right now is connected with as many people as possible, like Kevin here, to figure out how we can do something together. I don't know where this is going to go, but it feels good to be right here talking about it, right? And another point that came up as you were discussing that, if we don't choose the gods or the energies or the archetypes that we want to support us on our path, they will be given to us. This is part and parcel of what Kevin was talking about with this wordplay, this Project Mockingbird, these spells. They've been so deeply ingrained in us. They're just constantly on repeat and on loop and helping us make sense, make meaning in the only way that we know how. But you got to start bringing in your own myth. You got to start tapping into the lines of blood and tradition that you hail from, and like give them a little space and like be curious about it. You know, for the women out there who are in these households, in these same situations, what they desire more than everything is to feel safe and to feel loved. But if their man doesn't feel free and he's going through these loops of tyranny and slavery and constantly chasing the next paycheck or the next just like, you know, synthetic form of freedom, like how is she feeling? You know, where's the space for her to really blossom into her connection to her divine feminine creativity and ability to create simply by being? And they're being pulled into the same masculine loop now too, and it's engendering a lot of resentment. And some of them think they need to do the same things as men. Not to say all women are deeply feminine and want to care for the inner circuit of the village and the home and the children and the garden. You know, some of them have the programming of join a rock to go out there and, you know, and just stir shit up and make things happen. But by and large, it's poisonous right now. This lack of healthy, strong men standing up in alliance with some power greater than themselves to go out into the world and to do what it is that feels right. That allows the women to just be right in their own way. Women don't need to go out there and to penetrate the world and to create order largely. They want to inhabit a space that feels safe so they can blossom and support us in the walking into the chaos, because they are archetypically the chaos. And so if they feel safe to be this wild entropic force of nature, it empowers us to walk into that in our own lives.
Yeah. Love that you brought up the masculine feminine dynamic. It's what I spend most of my time coaching on. It's like men want freedom, women want love, you know, safety, love. Men want freedom and meaning, right? They want to feel like they're giving their gift to the world and it's being received. You know, that's why men who love what they do have this kind of shine to them. They have this like aura, and women are attracted to that, and men are also attracted to that to follow them. Those are how you find leaders of men. this is in the biblical stories as well, right? Like the story of Abraham in the Old Testament. It's a huge hero's journey of becoming a leader of men, even though he was kind of living in his mom's basement at the beginning. Jordan Peterson has amazing lectures on the psychology of these stories and the hero's journey myth from like a Jungian perspective. Um, we did a symposium in the Men's Academy last year on this, about the hero's journey, multiple of them. And I was pretty shocked, but also not. It made sense that a lot of these men, some of them had families, some of them had good jobs, some worked in the military, some were engineers, whatever. They didn't feel like they could access the hero's journey. And then how do their women feel? Like you said, they're not attracted to that. They don't feel like they have agency, which is something very similar to sovereignty. Agency is the ability to take action and have a cause and effect that actually you can somewhat influence and control. A lot of men feel trapped. They don't feel like they have agency. Most of my male clients, when they come to me at the start, it's just a litany of, well, I can't do that because my job requires this. Well, I can't do that because, my wife and kids or my girlfriend, we have to do things this way. Oh, I can't do that because I don't have the money. I can't do this because I don't know how to do it. I don't know enough. I need to research. I need to do blah, blah, blah. All excuses. Yes, there are limitations that you must contend with, but the crazy paradox of our time, and this is where, like, if you're watching this and it's like, oh, it's doom and gloom, they're pointing out everything that's wrong. Well, the first step of solving a problem is admitting there's a problem and identifying it. But the optimist, I'm an eternal optimist. Optimist in Latin means the best. It doesn't mean like, oh, the best way to do it in one way. It means the best. Optimist. It's like the best possible way. And pessimist means the worst. So being a pessimist and thinking the world's fucked, you're choosing the worst possible option, and you actually don't have enough data to make that conclusion, by the way. Now, optimism can become naive, but the perspective I want to share is like, we live in a time where there's no gatekeepers. Now, there are gatekeepers on, thought control, like we said, the spells that are being cast, the black magic of media, propaganda, conditioning. It's strong for sure. You got to learn to be a Jedi. You got to go to Hogwarts and learn your spells, because you can cast spells to defeat those spells, by the way. But we live in a time of unlimited freedom. With these devices, the internet, and being an entrepreneur, running your own business, you can live anywhere in the world. You can date and love anyone you want. You have unlimited freedom in this era. But people feel less free than ever.
It's the paradox.
Crazy.
You gotta claim that. You gotta claim that shit. I'm like, yeah, being an optimist is great. I've got hope tattooed on my back. That's the state motto of Rhode Island, and I believe in that shit. But if you don't temper it with facing and acknowledging the reality, you will become naive and you will become susceptible and gullible. Like, make no mistake, the world's on fire right now. Ice caps are melting. Everything's more expensive than ever. People are losing the ability to care for themselves. And we've got the most insane people ever in politics. No matter how you look at it, it's intense. Holy wars are popping back up again. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But because of that, like Kevin just said, we also have access to the most powerful tools to empower ourselves. Like right now, here we are talking across the world, being able to share this live on Facebook to, potentially thousands of people. And if you hear something here that you like, you can just hit a button and share. Maybe this person wants to hear that. Boom, done. But what are you going to do with it? Are you actually going to like pick up the mantle, pull Excalibur out of the sword or the stone and do something with that? And who's going to do it with you? Like, I'm sitting here with Kevin, because I followed this brother for years on Facebook, being totally inspired by what he was sharing, like stepping into a space to talk about polarity of all things, even in the heat of the Me Too movement. I saw someone who believed in something. And so you bet your ass when I started talking to him in this online academy recently that he was a part of, like, I wanted to get closer to this man. And being here speaking with him about these topics, and considering bringing something to men and women around the world around this, like, this is the result of me trusting myself to move towards people that feel that you're aligned with me.
Yeah, brother. Appreciate you. I mean, we met in person at an event in like a micro village. It was at a retreat mastermind. And that is the best place to meet people, by the way, for anyone listening, is like go to be in a village together, even if it's only for a long weekend. And what's so funny, I mean, I'm a retreat, bender, veteran, lover. I've facilitated dozens of retreats in my day and I've attended more. I love them. Now, what's really interesting, and I used to be part of a community called International Tribe Design, about designing tribes. That's where I kind of cut my teeth, I guess 10 years ago, going to retreats. What you find is people from all over the world will meet up in Costa Rica, in Mexico, in Europe, in Austin, whatever. And instantly there's some ice breaking, there's some awkwardness, trauma comes up, conflict, all of it. But people just settle into a community dynamic effortlessly. There's no way to, you don't have to teach them it. You don't have to remind them. It's our natural state. It's unnatural to isolate and be like onto the phone all the time and completely mentally drained. That's unnatural, which is why it takes energy to do that and maintain it. What's completely natural is to be sovereign, have agency, have other people you trust that are also sovereign and have agency, and to solve complex problems and create a better world together for your children. That's the human way. We've been doing it for a million years and we're going to do it a million more. Now, is that under siege? Is it under threat? Potentially. There's people in the world right now, which, evil is real. I think evil, like, it's not just, oh, there's no such thing as evil. It's just people doing, no, there's like demons walking the earth right now.
Totally.
That don't want that to happen because they know as soon as that happens, it's game over for their little plans, right? It's like the Sith, like, good, make them isolated. They understand that as soon as the Jedi get organized, it's game over because we outnumber them 1,000 to 1, 1,000,000 to 1. Now, the problem is divide and conquer. Races are at each other's throats. Like you said, yeah, I mean, fucking Iran and Israel and Hamas and like what's going on in the Middle East is very concerning because these old holy wars and tribal blood feuds are reemerging right now. And shit like that is what's going to stop the good guys from getting their shit together and organizing. And obviously, we're not going to do it on a global scale overnight. You got to do it in your local community with your people. And that's the first step. I always tell people, whether you want to date and have amazing experiences with intimacy, whether you want to start a business, whether you're lonely, step one is find the others. Who is in your community? Who do you trust? Who do you want to surround yourself with? Just like you said, even if you're alone in some small town in the middle of Europe or America, there's people online that aren't that far away that are like-minded and like-hearted. And you got to take the first step.
Something you said about being in those spaces, immersing yourself in these environments. I know people call them retreats, but I encourage y'all to look at the term immersion because, okay, you can get a hit of compatibility. You see someone on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook like I did with Kevin. And then it's different when your body is near that person's body. There's so much more information, whether you feel it or not. You'll walk away from that interaction knowing so much more about them. And it wasn't until I was like, body to body with Kevin at this event in Austin, I'm like, oh, I feel like I really could get to know this person more. Like it feels safe. And even when we were in the same space in the men's academy, I almost was like I was trying to show up in a way where he would, I don't know, appreciate me. And this comes down to some other idea of acknowledgement. It's when I just started to show up in my power and offer my gifts to the community, and he would acknowledge me in ways that I wanted to be seen. Then ask for it, to show up. And that there's a tie that binds there. And that's something that men crave so much, is to simply be acknowledged for what they're doing. Kevin, you say often that what men need most from their women is respect. Well, from other men, that respect looks like acknowledgement and appreciation for all the work that we've been doing. We've been slaving, we've been trudging through, mostly without choice. Even if it's something that you don't enjoy doing, I mean, how good does it feel to be acknowledged for it? When's the last time that you heard that from a man? Maybe from your spouse? Like where is that missing? Can you ask for that? How does it feel when you consider asking? How did it feel the last time you received a compliment? Did you just shoot one back and deflect it, or did you really let that in? And this is why coming together in these spaces, and they're everywhere. This is one of the benefits of being in the States. We're organizing all over the place in major metropolitan cities. And it's through experiences like that over about a decade in the States and all different places that I was able to be able to bring myself somewhere wild, like Costa Rica, because I understood how to be in community. And like, I'm not here to sensationalize living in the jungle because it is hard freaking work. Who knows your business? Holds her to a high degree of integrity. I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have been there like 10 years ago. I would have been ripped to shreds by nature. We got to take our time, and it starts by circling with the people in your community that you feel interested in. It's going to be a little scary at first, to come out from behind the screens, the laptop, the phone, the iPad, you know, surrounded by walls in your cubicle, closing the door to your office, like, none of that. Being open and just being seen by people, surrounded by them in circles, sitting together and eating at a long table. That's going to take some time to get used to. But these are the things you need to start doing. And this reminds me and humbles me that, yes, we're at the beginning stages. Yeah, there's wild magic and spells happening, and we have access to that too. And sometimes it can feel like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, and it can be. And these are the myths that are here to buoy us back up. I feel an urgency because we are still in the infancy of it, coming out of being infantilized as just automatons, but we also need to recognize that we're in the early stages of reclaiming this power. And this idea of being sovereign sounds like lofty and big and advanced in the way it is, but it's cyclical, right? You got to get into your primal sovereignty of your essence in your soul first. And then it brings up the higher systems of authority and leadership, power in a good way, not force, but power to be exuded, to be felt by other people around you, to inspire them and lead them into the unknown that you have walked. Kevin and I aren't experts at this. We've just been doing this long enough and trust ourselves to allow people who are a few steps behind us into our field and to help them understand what they might be doing. Guides. Guiding is what we do. Coaching is kind of a funny term. I think of coaching like baseball, basketball. We know what we're doing. There's a framework and there's rules and guidelines. And you know when we've won. We're not doing that. It's just a game of life. And there's really no rules per se. I mean, yeah, I agree, it's good and evil and it can help keep us in check. But it's like we're walking each other home side by side. And that's all we're here to do is find others who want to walk with us.
Preach, preach. Yeah, I had some people on Instagram talking about liberty and like-minded individuals, and it's something we all crave. The number one threat to the golden age or whatever the world we all want to create is just that like-minded people don't team up. That's actually the only threat. It's not that like AI will take over or like evil people rule the world. That's not actually the threat. The threat is just that we don't get organized and team up. And, again, if you're watching this video live or later and man or woman, you're feeling inspired, let us know in the comments and drop an emoji, your favorite emoji. We're actually, Kyle and I are going to host a like private, space council masterclass with y'all where we can go much deeper and actually be on like a video call together. And we'd love to invite you to that. So if you're watching, you're sharing this video with your friends, you're like, man, I'm really eating this up. Let us know in the comments and we'll send you that invite privately. That'll be probably happening next week or week after. That is the sign of the times, though, is that if you're not resourced in some kind of village, it can be like 2 or 3 people that are really close to you. I mean, I just had a discovery call today with a few people, and it's like, okay, you want to date high quality men or women, you want to do this and that. Okay, who's your community? Oh, I don't have one. Well, that's step one. You're not going to change the world and like create some grandiose vision. You're not going to find the one and have a family and live happily ever after if you don't have community. So that's always where things start. You can make that easier by going first and being visible and consistent with people that you want to connect with. And that can start online. It's even better if you do it in person though. So that's actually what sovereignty is about. It's interdependence. So you're independent. You have agency. Awesome. We want those people. It only matters though in context of being interdependent with others And this works economically with barter and trade and teaming up, pooling resources. This works energetically and emotionally because you need, like you said, men want to be seen and respected and acknowledged. Women want to be loved and heard. We can only do it together. So we're not, solitary animals. We're social animals. The village of chimpanzees or lions in the pride, they can't be alone. Like the wolf is a great example. The lone wolf idea, like, oh, the lone wolf's so cool. And yeah, it's like, well, the lone wolf actually starves to death because he can't bring down big game. He also doesn't get to mate. It doesn't work. A lot of people think that works because Hollywood and their favorite badass entrepreneur podcast is like, fuck friends. You don't have time for friends. It's just about money. It's about hustle. It's about blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's actually not. It's not what it's about.
I mean, there is a lesson there around aloneness and being able to be with yourself in solitude. And that is an important part of the individuation of man in the hero's journey, but you don't start there. That's like a humbling phase when you get really face to face with excavating your soul. Just want to toss that bit in there. And to speak to what Kevin said, dropping that emoji, letting us know you want more, coming to a space with us. This is about co-creation. You hear us. We've got ideas, we've got thoughts and beliefs. We're excited about something, and this is what we want to connect on. But what we are here to create is going to be together. You're going to let us know what you want to know more about, what direction you want to take it. And we're just going to pull out the salvo of the spirit and wisdom and tools that we have collected into a format that's going to help the people who are showing up to walk with us and to learn from each other too. This isn't us saying, okay, come sit around a table. We're going to be up here in our thrones and like spewing shit at you. That's part of the problem. We're going to sit in a circle and listen to each other and figure out what it is, this particular community that's feeling the call to come and respond and work with this energy that we're bringing here and build that. Is that what you want to be a part of? You want to help create something? You want to help create your community? This is what we're doing.
Yeah. It's a good word, brother. And this feels like a good stopping place, but this stuff, the good news about this stuff, like I said earlier, is that it's just remembering. Your DNA and ancestors and bones have done this for a long time. You don't need to go to a seminar and relearn all this shit. Yeah, you might need to invest to gain skills or get access to knowledge, resources, blah, blah, blah. But the village dynamic, becoming sovereign and interdependent with other like-minded people that you want to build dope shit with, it's the oldest trick in the book for human beings. We've been doing it forever. We're masters of it. Now, to master it, yeah, you got to put in your 10,000 hours or whatever, but I don't think I'm a master. I've put in several thousand hours, and I think it gets so much easier because it does feel, like you said, like we're walking each other home. It's like coming home. Your nervous system, your mindset, your financial outcomes, your intimacy outcomes, everything gets better. When you move that one piece on the board, all the other pieces reorganize around it. And it's like you've come out of the matrix, right? You come out of the goop pod and unplug yourself. And you're just like, whoa, everything's in color. You feel more, you feel the rain, the breeze. Everything in life becomes enhanced when you unplug from the fake simulacrum simulation matrix. There's actually the good matrix, matrix, it's the mother. Nature is the matrix, the actual matrix in the good sense. The fake one, though, the synthetic one that a lot of people are being sucked into, we're going to see some crazy shit while we're alive. People are going to become addicted to AI girlfriends. People are going to be Neuralink chipped in their brain and be on the internet, blinking their eyes, scrolling, and it's going to get fucking weird, soon. This shit's happening. Elon Musk, I think he's doing some good things. He's also doing some batshit crazy things with Neuralink and stuff. We're going to see weird shit, and technology is going to be a big part of it. But again, the good news is nature, humans cohabitating, co-regulating, co-working. Most powerful force known to man. Nature wants it. So life itself is supporting us. The wind is at our back in our sails.
Mm-hmm.
But it is about choosing it, which that's kind of the full circle here in this conversation, is choosing sovereignty, choosing a hard path, taking the hero's journey. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. It's going to be challenging. especially the most challenging, painful part is losing friends and family along the way who aren't on the journey. And you don't actually lose them. It's just you'll reveal yourself and so will they. And you may not be on the same path. And that's okay.
You'll gain a new relationship with them when you release your inhibitions and feel the rain on your skin.
Go.
I mean, yeah, y'all. Come join the Wild Sovereign Mystery School. We're here to build this together and help us walk into this crazy, wild, zany world that's just getting more interesting and zany every passing day. You know, we're stronger together. That's really the point of it. We need to band up. This is the whole core of it all, is that we're separated. And we're all so damn powerful. Things we could do, we're together, move mountains, man. Create new myths, bedrock, stone by stone.
There it is. Awesome, brother. Really appreciate our talks as always. Again, if you're watching this live or you're going to watch it later, let us know in the comments what you thought. Drop an emoji of your choice if you want the invite to our private little council we're going to run. And yeah, share this video or tag someone if this was beneficial to you and you're like, that part, this, like, yes, more of that. Let's put into practice immediately what we're sharing.
Thanks, Kevin.